to like your specific country, or like in a broad sense, a lot of leftists talk about international revolution or international proletarian revolution type shit.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is we're not going to reach a moment where like every single person just all of a sudden throws off the chains all at once, or like
Yeah.
one country and then another and then another. Like that's not really how that's happened in history. Like, and I think yeah, so Alexander Dugin, he's a Russian philosopher. Should also be clarified here, they're not really Duginists. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they don't really ascribe to his like fourth political theory per se, but they do kind of fall into something that I call like the second defined by the fourth. So if like Dugin has his model of the four kind of political theories, liberalism, communism, fascism, and this fourth position he proposes, I would argue a lot of the right is starting to come into this like what I would call the first, which would be liberalism or just kind of democracy, informed by the third. Informed by the third position, which is fascism. So you'll see like Nick Fuentes type who kind of have an overlap with a lot of like the more like serious nationalists, or not necessarily serious, but the more hardcore nationalists. So like that's sort of the first position of like where Republicans overlapping with nationalism. And then infrared does something different, where the second position, communism, informed by the analysis of Dugin within the fourth political theory. I don't want to ascribe that thought to them. That's just kind of the way I've organized it in my head. But like they are influenced by Dugin. So like I said, Dugin's this like philosopher from Russia. I don't know too much about him. I know that he's credited with, he used to be a part of the National Bolshevik Party in Russia. I know he left that and disavowed that. I know he's spoken positively on fascism in the past. One thing Haas points out is what he describes is not like an accurate description of fascism. It's just this kind of ideal, like almost the Platonic form of like what fascism theoretically could be.
Yeah.
So it's not really accurate to say that he's, oh yeah, no, like the Nazis were good or anything like that. I don't know his position on that specifically.
Yeah.
I also know he's not really a proclaimed fascist. He falls into that fourth political theory that, you know, I think he attributes that to Eurasianism and this sort of multipolarity concept. And Eurasianism, I'm not fully all in the know on that one. I know it is like this sort of idea of like Russia and China kind of uniting as like one force. I know there's elements of that in infrared within their ideas of multipolarity. So like they foresee the world in which different poles of power sort of like emerge in different areas of the world to kind of challenge this hegemonic US power. It's not just America controls the whole world. It was like post Cold War.
Yeah.
Instead, different political powers emerge in different parts of the world. And I kind of think of that as a continuation almost of socialism in one country, but then it's more like socialism in one region, if that makes sense, where it's like the particulars of each civilization's reality can be applied instead of just applying to like your specific country, or like in a broad sense. A lot of leftists talk about international revolution or international proletarian revolution type shit. And the reality is we're not going to reach a moment where like every single person just all of a sudden throws off the chains all at once, or like one country and then another and then another. Like that's not really how that's happened in history. Like I think Stalin really vindicates socialism in one country with the success of the USSR. And I know a lot of people would look at me like I'm fucking crazy for saying the USSR was a success, but like that's something I'm like wholly all in on. That I think for what it was trying to do, at least early on, the USSR was like a roaring success in regards to building infrastructure and stuff like that, and take a literal peasant country into, you know, the modern world, you know? Like back to what I was talking about, like different poles in the world. There's kind of like allow different regions to have their own kind of thing they're doing, have their own like reality. And then so that way there's not just like one power that controls the whole world. So like that's kind of how they integrate Dugin, is like through his geopolitical analysis on stuff. Beyond that, also like that kind of leads like their anti-imperialist stance. And that's why they support a lot of countries we kind of don't think of as communist anymore, but I would argue still are, because they represent that anti-imperialist kind of wing. So like that'd be like the DPRK, that'd be Russia, because Russia's not a communist country, you know what I mean? Like it's not communist anymore, but they still back them because they're allied with China, and because China and Russia both oppose us. That's also why they side with Russia over Russia-Ukraine. I don't know the full background on the Russia-Ukraine war. It's also kind of secondary interest, because all the people who I am annoyed by and who I hate are pro-Ukraine, so it's kind of a no-brainer on that one.
Yeah, definitely makes that one easy.
Yeah, and realistically, like